In this video, I'm inviting you on an unusual journey. Imagine an expat stepping into a vast, bright gallery where, instead of traditional paintings, an entire exhibition hangs under the title 9 French Realities. This isn't just an art display. It's a walk through everything that awaits anyone planning to live in France. The first hall opens before him. On the wall hangs a large painting of narrow French streets, and across the landscape, the first reality is written with careful precision. He moves into the next hall. Here, another painting, another corner of France, another reality worth knowing in advance. Every hall has its own mood, its own character, its own little fragment of French life. The expat walks from painting to painting as if traveling across the country without yet setting foot on its soil. Each reality is a hint, a warning, an observation, or a small discovery that will help him understand France better and avoid unexpected surprises.
Now follow the expat through the halls of this gallery and discover all 9 French realities everyone should know before moving to France. This journey will be useful, and it might show you a side of France you've never seen before. Language barrier. There is a common belief that if you don't speak French, you simply won't survive in France. I'm ready to challenge that idea, and even disprove it. As an expat living in France and only beginning to learn the language, I can say honestly, I don't experience any difficulties communicating. Not with neighbors, not with officials, not with people I meet in everyday life.
First, about 8 out of 10 people I encounter speak English. Yes, their level varies, but it's more than enough to understand each other. And remember, every town has English-speaking expats. In mine, for example, out of 450 residents, almost half are British. So English is heard here almost as often as French. Second, we live in the age of technology. Google Translate isn't just an app, it's a full-fledged bridge between worlds. That's how I communicate, for example, with the clerk at the water company. He speaks French, I speak English, and the translator does all the heavy lifting. No problems at all.
Third, sometimes you have to do things the old-fashioned way. One resident of our village supplies everyone with firewood for the winter. He doesn't speak English and doesn't use translation apps. So I wrote him a letter in French, by hand, like in the old days. He read it, understood it, smiled, and put me on the list for next winter. We understood each other perfectly. And finally, the most important thing. I sincerely hope that every expat who comes to France wants to learn French. Not for an exam, not for a checkbox, but to understand the people around them, to hear their world, to speak to them in their own language. And if the desire is there, the language will come. Slowly, unevenly, with mistakes, but it will come. That's why I'm now certain the language barrier is not a reason to give up on moving to France. It's not a wall, just a temporary partition you can walk around, open, dismantle, and one day pass through free. Housing in France with furniture is not just good luck, it's a true blessing. Imagine this. You arrive at your new house or apartment, open the door, and realize there isn't even a chair inside. No spoon, no lamp, no mattress. You're in an unfamiliar town. You don't know a single store, not a single address, not even where to buy a basic pillow. How long will it take to set up at least the bare minimum? It's hard to even imagine.
By the time you figure out where to buy a bed, where to get pots, plates, and pans, you'll most likely have to stay in a hotel or temporary rental. And, of course, in the rush, you'll end up grabbing the first things you see. Not what you like, and certainly not what you would choose under normal circumstances. These are extra expenses that almost no one includes in their moving budget. I was truly lucky. Everything I needed was sold together with the house. Absolutely everything. Furniture, dishes, household essentials. I only bought a kettle because the old one was leaking.
My advice: before you set your moving date, think through your first few days. Find out in advance where the nearest stores, secondhand shops, and furniture centers are located. Consider what you might want to bring from your home country, at least for the beginning. One of my friends, for example, brought an entire suitcase filled with bed linens, towels, cups, and plates, and she was absolutely right. In France, all of this is quite expensive, and during the first days, these things become a real lifesaver. Formalities and documents. French official institutions have a special, almost touching love for formalities and paperwork. Wherever you go, the town hall, the bank, utility companies, the first things they will ask for are your passport and proof of address. Honestly, I would recommend carrying these documents with you at all times. And, of course, keep them in a safe place. Losing documents here turns into a small, everyday tragedy. If you're planning to move to France, give special attention to gathering your documents. Believe me, there is no such thing as too many papers. One bank refused me simply because I brought copies of my Canadian bank statements instead of the originals. They didn't even look at the copies, just smiled politely and shrugged.
Take everything that might possibly be useful, even if it seems insignificant. It's far better to have the documents with you than to discover you're missing exactly the one you need at the most important moment. In a separate video, I explain which documents are required to open a bank account. The link is in the description. Firewood. If you plan to heat your house with a fireplace, keep this in mind. In France, firewood is bought in bulk in the fall. The French take winter preparation very seriously.
As for how I managed to find firewood in January, when everything had already been sold out, and how my neighbors helped me with this difficult task, I tell that story in a separate video. The link is in the description. Okay, phone and internet SIM card. The first thing I did as soon as the plane touched down at the Paris airport was buy a phone and internet SIM card for a month. If I hadn't done that, I might never have reached my new home. The rental car had no built-in navigator, and driving halfway across France without a map would have been an adventure I was definitely not prepared for. The internet navigator on my phone became my lifeline.
Back in Canada, while preparing for the move, I used AI to find out which mobile operators worked in my French town and where their stores were located. In case I couldn't sign a contract right away, I needed to know where to buy a new SIM card for the following month. AI confidently recommended the company Orange. Looking ahead, I can say, it was absolutely right. The service worked flawlessly, and I never once regretted the choice. But here's what's important. Buying the SIM card is only half the job. You must activate it right there at the kiosk and check whether mobile and internet service actually work. In my case, the internet didn't work at first, and the seller spent almost 30 minutes fiddling with my phone, manually entering the settings. I can only imagine what would have happened if I had walked away immediately. I would have been left without service in a foreign country, without navigation, without guidance, without even the ability to make a call. And there was one more thing I didn't know at the time. Not every SIM card is compatible with every phone model. Compatibility can be tricky. I was lucky. My phone worked. But if it hadn't, the story could have started much more dramatically. So my advice is simple. In a new country, mobile service is not a convenience. It's a lifeline. Find out everything in advance and check the connection on the spot while there is someone nearby who can help. And the moment you get your new phone number, write it down somewhere. Trust me, in the first few days, your brain is already busy learning new words, new streets, new bakery hours. Remembering a random string of digits is basically impossible. Let this be your first small but very important practical discovery in France.
train and bus tickets. There is one thing in France that newcomers discover far too late. Train and bus tickets must be bought in advance.
If you want to leave on time, you have to plan ahead. Buy your tickets the moment you decide to travel. Here, train and bus tickets disappear very quickly. Today they're available, tomorrow they're gone. And a week later, there's nothing left but the memory of them. I learned this the hard way. There's a train that goes from Paris to my town, and while I was choosing a suitable flight, the train tickets for my planned date sold out completely. I had to change my flight day because of it. And this is not an exception. People here plan their trips early, a week ahead, 2 weeks, sometimes a whole month, especially on weekends, holidays, or simply on a sunny day when the entire country decides to go somewhere.
Buses are the same story. A route that seems totally empty suddenly turns out to be packed to the last seat. My advice is simple and absolute. Buy your tickets in advance. Not later, not in the evening, not when you have time. Immediately. As soon as you decide to go, buy. It will save you nerves, time, and money. And it will spare you from those situations where the train exists, but the tickets don't.
Learning to live by local rules. Before you move to France, you should prepare yourself that you must, and to be honest, you are simply obliged to learn to live by the rules of the place you have chosen to call home. After all, it is you who came here, to this land where the local way of life has been shaped for decades, where habits are passed down from generation to generation, where the order of things was formed not yesterday and not the day before, and it is certainly not your place to change it. At home, within your own family, you live the way you like. But the moment you step outside your door, you find yourself in a different life, with different rules, different rhythms, different foundations. It's not good or bad. It's simply different.
Imagine a guest who comes into your home and starts moving your furniture around just because he doesn't like where your table or bed stands. How would you react? Exactly. Now, remember, here, you are the guest. A guest from another country, perhaps even from another continent. So don't even try to move the furniture. It won't work. And if you insist, your stay here will become uncomfortable, both for you and for those around you. I know expats who have lived in my town for years and still don't know the names of the neighbors across the road. Did they not want to know? Did the relationship not work out? I didn't ask.
But after living my first 2 months in France, I understood one thing with absolute clarity. You need to befriend your neighbors. Without their help, life here becomes difficult. And besides, why live in a country whose customs and rules you don't appreciate? If your choice is France, then you must learn to live the French way, in the broadest sense of the phrase. Not copying, not imitating, not dissolving yourself, but absorbing, understanding, respecting. And then this country will open itself to you, just as it opened itself to me. Shops and offices. Shops and offices in France live by their own rules, not by yours, not by the internet, and certainly not by the logic of a big city. Even if a website confidently claims that a bank is open after 2 in the afternoon, it doesn't mean that it actually is. More than once, I arrived at the right place, trusting the schedule online, only to find a locked door and complete silence behind it, a silence utterly indifferent to my plans. Over time, I got used to it, and you will too. Not immediately, but you will. Remember the main rule. Lunch from 12 to 14 is sacred. During these hours, France seems to freeze. Neighbors nap, the mayor is at lunch, shops are closed, offices are empty. And don't even think about chopping firewood or mowing the lawn.
you will not be understood.
Most shops are closed on Sundays, and large supermarkets are open only until noon. If you haven't planned your shopping in advance, you risk going hungry, and you'll have no one to blame but your own naivete. The French know how to rest, and they know how to close their doors exactly when they need that rest. It's not a whim, it's a culture, and you'll have to learn to adapt to this rhythm rather than trying to change it. In time, you'll learn to give yourself rest too. You've earned it.
Okay. Property tax in France. If you're an expat who owns property in France, or you're thinking about buying, there's one thing you absolutely need to understand. You pay property tax every single year. Doesn't matter if you're a resident or a non-resident. Doesn't matter if you live in Canada, Australia, or on the moon. If the property is in France, France wants its tax. And yes, the French tax system is exactly as complicated as everyone says. But don't worry, I break it down simply in the video. Expats in France, French property taxes. What you need to know, my first visit to the tax office.
If this video resonated with you, don't forget to subscribe and like. See you in the next episode.